Hello Reds, welcome along to All for United.
Hello and welcome to All for United with me, John Foster, MUFC. Got loads to get through tonight. The Man United women's Twitter account is a little bit slow, going through every player one day at a time, putting up some random pictures. But we've got a bit more exciting content on our show tonight. Joining me as always is Natalie. You okay, mate?
Hiya, hey guys. Just hit the like button. Going to be a good show today. I'm excited.
Yep, so am I. And for the first time ever, Susie's on the show. How are you doing, Susie?
Hey, I'm good, thanks, guys. Hope you're all good.
We're good, thank you. Thank you for joining us. We'll do a proper introduction shortly. Just want to give the guys a bit of an idea on what to expect for tonight then. So we're going to be talking more about the ins and the outs tonight. We had Richard on the show last week and we spent a lot of time talking about potential leavers. So we want to talk a little bit about players who could potentially be joining the club tonight, and also how that might have a knock-on effect because of other clubs. So, for example, if Arsenal are buying a striker, does that mean they need to get rid of a striker, for example? And maybe just talking a little bit about who else is available, even though they might not be linked, we can link them. So potentially we could do something that way. We also want to talk a little bit about the club statement. We'll open the show with that one that came on the Man United app about an hour or two ago. And also Everton catching us up a little bit. You know, they're making a few moves early, and maybe we've got to look over our shoulder there. So the battle for top three next season potentially could be even harder. So I just want to say hello to everybody in the comments before we get started. Over 40 people watching. Thank you very much. Please retweet, get everyone on board, and we'll make a start. So Natalie, the notification on our phone came out about the club statement. I know that you played a big part in what they were talking about. Do you want to kind of elaborate on that one, mate?
Yeah, obviously, everyone knows I'm part of the Barmy Army. It's not just myself. It's Deborah, it's Mark, it's Shane, it's Fiona. It's a committee. And obviously when Casey Stoney resigned, we put a statement out just saying what we've heard. We're unhappy. And obviously they responded. It's led to a meeting. It's leading to more meetings, hopefully. That's why it's sort of important that, you know, everyone who watches these shows, everyone who goes to games, everyone who wants to be involved in the atmosphere. It's not just about that. It's about, you know, joining, supporting, and we'll talk out when it's great, and we'll have a party, and we'll do everything. You know, we'll celebrate big wins. But if something bad's happened, and you know, we've talked a lot about it on this show as well. We need to all come together, and you know, it doesn't take a long time. Just fill your membership form out, become a member, and it's led to sitting down, like they've said. They've made reference to how they're going to improve Carrington, how Casey's done, you know, been part of the signings this year, how they're working to get a new manager. So it was a good meeting, and it's obviously come out with a bit of detail about what's happened, and it's just onwards and upwards, I think, and I'm excited for what's the future holds for our team and our supporters.
We do always get sceptical when the board come out with a statement, because is it just paper talk, is that and the other? But I do think that they've done the right thing by having this meeting, and they've actually, once they've had that meeting, they've actually come out and said what they're going to do. So it's not like it's kind of being washed away, not yet. Maybe we'll see in a few months' time, of course. But I do think it's a positive step that they've listened to us, and yeah, definitely onwards and upwards, and it's great to see. Fingers crossed. Susie, welcome to the show. For anybody who doesn't know you, do you want to just kind of tell us like what your day job is?
I very usefully just lost you a bit there, so I don't know if it's just me or you.
It could be.
Have you got me okay?
Yeah, spot on. Cool. There might be a little delay.
Yes. No worries. So I've been writing about women's football since, for The Guardian since about 2017. just before the Women's Euros. Before that, I was working on the sports desk at The Guardian, doing like layout, sub-editing and writing for other places. So I've always followed and written about women's football. I'm an Arsenal fan for my sins, so don't hate me too much. But I grew up across the road on a council estate across the road from where Arsenal ladies trained when I was like 4 or 5 years old. So we used to go and watch, me and my dad used to go and sit and watch them train before women's football was really a thing anywhere. And then, was at the double parade and like in 98, and then again later on where the women's team were on buses behind the men's team with all their trophies and stuff. So was very lucky in that sense, and I grew up around women's football from quite an early age. But yeah, didn't start writing properly about it until The Guardian approached me about doing something in 2017, and been doing it ever since. It went from a weekly blog, which is what they started me off with, which they said just before the Euros, we'll have to review this in a couple of months' time and see if it's getting where we want it to go. And we never had that conversation. Now I'm full time writing about women's football for them. So shows like it's been quite nice in a way, because like my growth as a women's football writer has sort of gone hand in hand with the growth of the women's game, which I don't think is an accident. So yeah, I've been doing that for a while now.
I know, obviously, you're well thought of. I'm only on Twitter; it's the only platform that I'm on. But you do come quite a lot. Do you ever, just completely different side now? This is just from my own personal experience, especially maybe doing YouTube or writing. Do you ever kind of like get stuck what to write about, or do you like listen to what people are saying on Twitter or this, that, and the other? Do you always get some sort of content from somewhere, or think to yourself, oh, these guys are talking about this, so it must be topical, so I'll talk about this? Is that kind of how you kind of direct yourself?
Yeah, a little bit. Keeping the ear to the ground. I think like since, Twitter and social media took off, it's made journalism a bit of a 24/7 job, where perhaps it wasn't before and was a little bit harder to dig out the story. So in that sense, like, a rumor pops up on Twitter and you can immediately go and start looking into it and working out whether there's any truth to it and stuff. So like it's helpful in that sense. Whether like there's never anything not to write about. If anything, there's too much to write about. Like, I think that's one of the things that people get a little bit, give us a little bit of flack, is that we, as women's football writers, are stretched really, really thin. And so sometimes we might make mistakes, or we might miss a story or whatever. But when you think about it compared to the men's game, you've got, for example, for The Guardian, we've got Jamie Jackson up in Manchester covering the Manchester teams. We've got Andy Hunter covering Liverpool and Everton. But I've got to cover the whole of WSL and the Championship and international game. So like there's plenty of stuff I'm going to miss because I can't watch every team week in, week out and get those nuances and stuff. And that's, so like, I think that's one of the things where we maybe get a bit of flack for things where it's perhaps a little bit harsh in that, it's very difficult to stay across absolutely everything and cover absolutely everything. In an ideal world, we'd have writers for every single Women's Super League club and Championship club, or covering a couple or whatever, but we're not at that stage yet. Hopefully we get there. But for now, yeah, I'm always constantly frustrated by how hard it is to cover everything, because there's just not enough hours in the day. If I'm off, we've got Louise who does some stuff for us, but she also covers a men's game up in the north east. So it's like, sometimes hard to get stuff covered if I'm not there to do it. But yeah, there's like, you've seen since the season finished, there's never a let up. There's never oh, thank God the season's over, we can have a little breather. It's straight away punching with 1,000,001 transfer stories before the window's even open.
Me and Natalie are the same. When some channels are like gradually like winding down, we're trying to put extra shows on, and it's great. And you mentioned obviously you're covering all the WSL, all the Championship. That's a lot of knowledge that you need to have as well. I've only got knowledge really on the United team, where you've got to have knowledge on every team. Maybe not a massive amount, but enough to at least know what's going on. So credit to you for doing that on such a large newspaper outlet as well. You want a Man United fan channel, Susie, so Nat, I want to kind of bring you in on this one.
And like, listen, I've told everyone to get on it, and I'm sure I'll get comments in, but listen, it's all good. It's all good. I think everyone's pushing for the same thing. I think Susie sort of mentioned it there, frustration. And I think we are frustrated as fans. We want more. We want more from our club, period. And that's in terms of social media. We want to know who's going where. We want to know who's leaving. We want to know who our new manager is. Like you said, John, it's something that we can talk about now. So it's something that we can, I think as fans coming in 2018, myself especially, I didn't know anything about anything. So I've tried to educate myself a bit as well. I know a lot more about the Championship. I know a lot more now about WSL as a whole. I know a lot more about Spanish League now. Don't know enough about German or French, but it's something that I can learn, and it's something that I want to learn because I've had some Spanish people come up to me going, "You just learned about Spanish League, so you can take our players," and I'm thinking, yeah, but I do like it as well. So, Barcelona, I know what they're doing. I know what Levante are doing. I know who's coming up from Levante, Sevilla. And I think that's what it is. With the women's game, with the men's game, they'll just put the names out for you, and then you can go and look it up. With the women's game, you've got to think, this contract's up. We need a player like this. What's she doing? And I know we're going to mention some names and put them to Susie, but I think that's where United fans' frustrations come in. We are one of the fans that want news now fast, and I think with Sky it'll change. Hopefully, Sky, BBC, making it more public. Big corporations will see there's a demand. People want to know information. I read an article the other day as well. It's about toxic positivity, and I think I can't remember who wrote it, but it was Sophie. And that's something as well. I think that there's not enough, maybe not criticism, but we'll come out here, John, and say this player didn't do well, and this player should have done this, and we've had it all season, and I think that's what sort of happened with Man United fans. They've come in, we've all come in, we've got a certain standard of what we expect from journalists, from referees, from the club, and we've sort of been a bit shocked by it. It's moving. It's always going to move. We've seen with the statement, things will get better, I believe, for everyone. But that's why it is a bit thick, because Susie got a lot of our anger, I think. Man United fans' anger. But it's all good now.
I mean, can I just, before we just move on to transfers, Nat, you just mentioned about the Man United fans, kind of what we bring to the table. Susie, you've obviously followed women's football for a long time. Some of the United fans are slightly different. Not everyone. A small group of us are different to maybe what you've been used to in the past. What was your kind of initial reactions to something different happening? And I'm sure I'm not expecting it to be brilliant stuff. I'm just kind of wondering what your initial reactions were, because you've kind of you've grown up to the women's game.
I mean, from a personal point of view, I love it in that, I followed the men's game first, right? I go to Arsenal games when, I've not been able to for a long time because most of my weekends are taken up with the kid and women's football now. But I'd get to, between 10 and 15 Arsenal men's games a season before I was writing about women's football. So from that point of view, any improvement on the atmosphere in the women's game, I think, is a good thing. And that's one of the things that Man United coming to the table has brought, is that because you've got this layer coming over from the men's game, you've got a bit more of a rowdy atmosphere, and I like that. And you can tell the players like it too. You see, some of them really, really like the atmosphere at Man United. They like it a little bit feistier. When you've got Megan Rapinoe in the States talking about liking play, winding up the Portland Fawns fans and stuff like that. They like a little bit of contrition and a little bit of bite, and I think that's good for the game. Obviously, there's been moments where it's spilled over a little bit here and there. There was the alleged bit of racist chanting, I think, back at when was it? I don't know if it's true or not. I barely covered it. I was at the game. I didn't hear it, so that's all I can say. Yeah. I was at the game. I didn't hear it, but I then had to follow it up because it was reported various places. But there's football fandom reflects society. You're never going to eradicate every issue from the stands unless it's eradicated from society generally. So for me, that's not the biggest issue. What fans bring to the game is the bigger issue. What fans bring to the stands is the bigger issue. And I've really enjoyed the Barmy Army coming in. I like the banter with fans from a personal point of view. I don't mind being pulled up by fans over my opinions, or like if they don't like a team of the season or whatever it may be. As long as it's respectful, as long as it's respectful, I've got no problem with like it. From my point of view, debate and discussion improves your argument. That's how you refine it. That's how you get to your argument into the best possible position, is by like defending it and testing it and trying to win people to it and having it challenged. So from that point of view, I really like debate and discussion with fans. I just, the only thing I'd say is, like I said before, is more context to what we're trying to do, in that, like, I get asked to go, I get some say over what games I go to, but, the desk obviously want certain games covered. If there's an important big game, Chelsea, City or whatever, or there's a big relegation game, it means I'm not going to cover Man United every week, or Arsenal, or whatever it may be. Like, it means that I don't see every minutiae of formation changes and things like that, and just, I suppose, a bit of an understanding of, as well, compared to the men's game, we don't get replays when we're sitting in the stands, in press boxes. Like all the men's journalists get replays. They've got little TV screens in front of them. The only grounds where you have that is at City, and they don't have them switched on for us for the women's games. So, like, even when they're there, we've not got it. So we're reliant on, sometimes I might have BT Sport up on my phone on the side, like trying to then catch a replay, or we've got a WSL journo like WhatsApp group, and we'll be like, did you see who played that pass? No, did you? Can someone who's at home rewind it and check what it was? Like, that's how we're having to work out replays. So in a lot of senses, we don't have, we will make mistakes because we do not have the same resources that the men's team have, the men's game has. So, like, just a bit of understanding of the sort of resources and constrictions that we're working with, and that we will make honest mistakes. We don't have the same level of support in that's like technologically and just generally that the men's game has, in terms of volume of journalists as well. So I like banter, I like back and forth, I like testing ideas, I like being challenged and fighting my corner. So from that point of view, I think the arrival of Man United on the scene has been nothing but a good thing.
Yeah. I just want to say the one thing about the racists, it was proven to be lies. Someone said they heard monkey chants, went to a steward, the steward said it's not monkey chants, it's booing. And I think it's quick for people to say this and that, throw out things because they're seeing a change. I know you're going to come on to Craig, but I think that's what I've seen. I think now people have come round and realised, like you said, this is what the players want, this is what is going to be good for the growth. And I think we're going to see it majorly with the BBC and with people watching that have probably do support the men's team, never watched the women's team. They're going to talk differently. I've seen it already, people saying things that I think, wow, but that's how you would say it. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. You can't sugarcoat it, kind of thing. But yeah, that's just my point on that alleged thing. Total bull crap.
I mean, like I say, I was there and I personally did not hear it. When I saw the reports, I was like, I did not hear this. I was sitting in the stand. So, but yeah.
I was standing right in the same place, and obviously, but we don't need to talk too much about that now.
Yeah.
Faiga's got a good question on screen that will, that if you don't mind answering that one, Susan, because I think that's a real good thing, because social media across America, we've seen it this season more than ever with Preston Heath coming across. I think it's been fantastic for the game. What are your thoughts on that question, though?
Yeah, completely. Completely think that the WSL could learn a hell of a lot from the NWSL, not just in interaction with fans on social media, but like in so many other ways too, in terms of like ownership structure and stuff as well. In that, like, the NWSL is splitting away from US soccer. It's got, it has more independent clubs. They're more separated from the men's team. It's a much more sustainable league in the long term, in my opinion. And I think all of that for me is like a big lesson to be taken from the NWSL in the States. In terms of social media interaction with fans, like, I think the US is next level in that, like, you've got club accounts willing to properly engage with fans on social media. Here it's much too like straight-laced, similar to the men's game, like distant from fans, and it doesn't need to be. I think there's a drive generally from communication departments, clubs, to behave the same way the men's side of the comms teams behave to fans and stuff. But like, it's different, obviously, isn't it? Because the women's game needs the interaction, the men's game doesn't. Like, it needs to build relationships with fans. It needs to draw fans in and make them feel a part of something new. And like, that's what what separates the women's game from the men's game is that it still needs fans. It still needs the media. Like, I'd say another lesson that could be taken from the NWSL is the way they treat the media. They, the way you see the NWSL account bantering with Meg Linehan and stuff. Like, you would never get that here in a million years. Or club accounts, bantering with various journalists, just would not happen. And we also are starved of material from clubs as well, who tend to have a focus on their own internal channels. And whilst that is a benefit to a very, very small group of fans that follow them, in terms of spreading the wider message of their club to a global audience, is quite actually narrow-minded. So like, I actually get more press releases week by week from NWSL clubs than I do from WSL clubs. We've had situations where we've got press releases from clubs after transfers have been announced on Twitter, and it's like, come on, like, The Guardian is the second biggest English language read newspaper in the world. We have quite a big following. You want the story up there, and there's no reason why it can't go on the club channels and on major news outlets as well. And I think it's just like quite a narrow view of that. We're Man United, or we're Arsenal, we're Man City. We don't need the press. We're big enough. And in the women's game, you're not. no one is big enough yet. And there's a huge global audience that can be tapped into for the women's game that is just being missed. And I think that's the case, both from a media point of view, both from interaction with fans, both from the way the league is run. The attitude for me is just all wrong.
Can I just touch on that point? So does that happen then in the men's game? Would they do that in the men's game, or would they would release the press? So why does it not then maybe come from the FA, who run the league, maybe putting in better rules and regulations that they have to sort of follow, where you have to put up the manager for a press conference, you have to put up a manager for a pre-game, you have to release things to the media, Surely the FA, who are running the league, should be not forcing, but encouraging this. And if then there's no encouragement, they don't respond, they still do it the way, then there's, well, listen, this is how we're gonna do it in a way.
We're in constant dialogue with the FA, through the Football Writers Association as well. We've got a little working group where we've done huge lists of complaints we've got about facilities, about press releases, about the timing of press conferences, about a lack of pre-match stuff. I was chatting to someone who was moaning about the fact that there had been so little coverage of one WSL team, and then, without saying who or what team, and then comparing that to another WSL team that had got a lot more coverage. And I went straight back. I was like, well, this manager spoke to us every single week pre-match, regardless of what was going on. This one didn't speak to us once all season. There's a reason why they've got significantly more coverage, and it's not our fault. Like, if the manager doesn't speak to us, so they spoke to us once after one post-match press conference, and it was actually a really good press conference. We had to argue for that, and it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't have said, no, we need to speak to this manager after their first game in charge, and it wouldn't have happened otherwise. And it was actually a really good interview, and they held themselves really well and carried really well. And if we had the opportunity to speak to them every week, I'm sure we'd have built a decent relationship, and it would have been good for them to have their name in the press and their club in the press every week, chatting about the games or chatting about the issues going on. But as it was, I'd say there were at least 3 teams that didn't do any pre-match press conferences across the entire season. But yeah, like I say, something we're constantly taking up with the FA, with clubs directly. But yeah, I think it needs the FA to be a little bit more heavy-handed, but they've also got to choose about what they're heavy-handed with clubs over as well. So I'm slightly, as much as it pains me to be sympathetic to the FA, slightly sympathetic to the FA in that, you know, there's only so many things they can fight battles on with clubs at the moment.
There's so many questions in the comments. We'll try and
I like numbs.
Yeah, but we want to talk about transfers as well. But if you just want a quick answer to that one, then from Nam Martin, obviously, you know, we obviously love Casey. How was Casey in the press conferences? What were your thoughts? What kind of aura? What kind of things did she kind of give off when you was in the room with her, or on podcasts like this?
I mean, I love Casey. I've always loved her, as a player and as a manager. Like, you know, I've obviously disagreed with decisions she made or things she's done and whatever, professionally, but she's a great person, handles herself fantastically in press conferences, comes across really well. She was always late for press conferences. That was an issue, but especially when we're on deadlines. But yeah, she's like, one of the things that I maybe found frustrating, but I think it's just the type of person that she is that she was never ever happy after a win. And I was just like, sometimes you just want a line, you know, just give us a line that is gonna sell. Like, we're not gonna sell a match report about a really massive United victory on oh man, yeah, it was all right, we need to do better, though we were so sloppy in this 10 minutes of the game or whatever. We need some nice line. This is a turning point. This was a massive victory. But I think it's just the kind of person that she is that she is never ever satisfied. You know, nothing is ever there's always something to be improved. There's always and like, so in some sense I respect that, but it was extremely frustrating when you're, you know, trying to have her as a top line of a match report or a quotes piece afterwards, and you haven't really got a winning line to hook it on. So that was annoying, but yeah, love her.
I remember watching one of Rodney's shows, and he had some rival fans on, and they were saying something very similar, kind of like he's always like moody or down or something. I kind of revel off it, and I know Nat.
Yeah. Even the way Nan said, listen, and I love it. I love where she just goes, listen, this is how it is. This is what it is. And I remember the very first time, we won against Villa 12-0. And I went, Gaffer, congratulations, I'm not happy. And I said back to her, though, how can you not be happy? You just won 12-0. And she went, I don't know, just not. And she laughed at me for saying that to her. And I think that's how you get it out of her. You sort of got to throw it back at her. Where's the happiness? Where's the smile? Come on. Broke up.
Oh, we tried.
Yeah. Right, yeah. She's
even
angry when she loses.
Nat, I'm going to bring you in first then. So, last 3 or 4 days, we've seen a Barcelona striker linked with United. Obviously, Barcelona running right over Europe at the moment. Even before they played in the final stages, they've done really well. What are your thoughts on this player? And also, is it possible, do you think, that she could leave Barcelona to come to United?
Yeah, obviously it's the player that's on the header of this video, Oshala. I think I said her name right. Listen, it was a rumour that was started a while ago, and I remember it was when Casey was even here, and I sent it to Em and said, find out about this, and she came back, and Casey sort of said, no, we're not interested, so we all just forgot about it. But it seems now, I've seen 2 stories about it from Spanish media. Maybe they're pushing it. Maybe she's pushing it because they want a new deal. Who knows what it is? I don't mind her. I know there's people out there that are saying, no, she misses a lot of chances. Yeah, she does. But where you need to look at it is we have Jane Ross and Jess Sixworth. I love Jess. Jane's all right, but it's upgrades. I think we're in a pool where we wanted like world class. You know, we've had Simon on here from Jamaica talking about Bunny Shaw, and I think we can't go for those players now. And I think for me, Oshala is decent. And if we got her, I'd be happy. You know, she's scored about 20 goals plus. for Barcelona in as many games last season. She's been a bit more injury prone this season. Don't need another injury prone player, but she's still done well. She's got about 10 goals or something like that. I think she's quick, she's fast. It would suit us, I think. And I'd be happy if she came in. I don't know. I'm going to let Susie say, because I know I asked her about it, whether she thinks it's something that can be done. It does look like she wants out. She's not the only player from Barcelona that wants out. Is she any good if say, Barcelona are looking to let her leave? Who knows? But that's someone that we're hearing a lot about. So, Susie, what's your thoughts on her joining Man United?
So, I mean, first off, I think she's a really good player, and doesn't necessarily get as much credit as she deserves. She had a tough, partly because she had such a tough time in England before, and I interviewed her when she moved to China, and she's really lovely person as well. But wherever she's been, she's scored goals, and like you said, she's scored 23 goals across all competitions this season, where she's done 3 trophies and she's been out for big chunks of the season. You can't argue with her return, generally speaking. She's been African Player of the Year, I think, 3 times. I really rate her. She was, I thought it was a massive mistake on Barcelona's part that she didn't start the Champions League final back in, was it 2016 when she played? Was it 2019? I've lost all track of time. 2019, wasn't it? Yeah. Because I think she was a far more dangerous player than Tony Duggan was up against that Lyon defence. And it showed when she came on towards the end of the game and got the only goal that Barcelona got. She's got a really, really good eye for goal. She's a great finisher. I think as long as she gets the service, she'll score. So it just depends on the players that she's got around her. In terms of whether she'll come to United, I think the problem that United have at the moment is without a manager out in public, it's hard. I think it's hard for any player to get really, really excited about coming to the club, because you don't really know what is going to be there. Obviously, they may have an idea of who's coming in and is going to be in charge, but it's not quite the same as when it's actually properly the paper is dry and it's out there. So I think it's hard from that point of view. In terms of whether she'll come, there has been interest. There's been interest from a few clubs in her. I do think Barcelona are ready to let her go. They've got a host of forward players that are sort of keeping her out of the team a little bit at the moment. They're looking at bringing in a few more. So in that sense, I think it'd be quite a good fit. But I wouldn't rule out interest from other places as well. And I think in terms of her ambitions, it's going to be who else is coming in with her, and for the club in terms of getting her, how much they're willing to pay for her, because that's another big question. Barcelona don't have to let her go. They can hold on to her, or they can wait for bigger money. And I think one of the things that's clear this season is that there's a lot of clubs looking for strikers, and she's proven. So in that sense, it wouldn't surprise me if quite a lot of other clubs are interested in her. I haven't heard exactly what clubs are interested in her. I've heard the links to United, but I've not had it confirmed. I know that there are more clubs interested in her than just the one, though.
Interesting. I've seen Jockey sort of saying Esther will sign from Levante to Barcelona. That's not one I've heard. I've heard she's going to Real Madrid, but I've heard Roloff from, that's probably I said the name wrong, from Wolfsburg is going to Barcelona, and so that's why they'll then sell potentially, or Charlotte, if we're interested. And like I say, our name's about, and I see Vic sort of saying it's agent talk. Do you find that now, Susie? Do you find that we're going to see this more clickbait kind of things? Man United, everyone knows United fans. Everyone knows in the media Man United sell. Like the men's team, it's sort of getting that way. I used to sort of say to John, so sometimes you hear with the women's team, it's true because you don't see anything. But now, 2 or 3 articles, I'm seeing Man United, and I know you did that piece on Viv, and obviously that's someone, a big name that people are thinking, and I've seen her now linked to Lyon, her now linked to Barcelona as well, and players are getting those names, teams are getting those names. Do you see that coming into the women's game a bit, the bit of the clickbait media, obviously not from yourself, but from agents to drive up, to do these things, to sound out interest, to get new contracts? Do you think that we're going to see a lot more of that now?
Definitely. I think the women's transfer market has been like just not dead, that's a bit harsh, but has been extremely low key and quiet, both in terms of like money changing hands. You know, it's not a lot of money in the women's transfer market. Like most of the transfers are free transfers. Most of the players are on 1 year deals that just expire. But like literally, the past couple of seasons, you've seen some of the big name moves, the Pernille Harders and stuff, the record breaking money, that kind of thing start to happen a little bit more regularly. And I think that's only going to increase. And the more you get, that happening, the more agents need to play a little bit of brinkmanship, both with clubs and with the media. So, like from a media point of view, from a Guardian point of view, we always like at least double source things. We never go on one source. And like our sources always have to be good as well. It takes a lot before we'll stick a transfer story up. Like the Viv and Paris Lyon swap may not happen. I never said it was going to happen, but they are in talks over it. Like
do you mind if we talk a little bit about Arsenal? Then obviously you being an Arsenal fan, we need to get above Arsenal next season. Do you think there's any transfers that they can be doing, either in or out, that will have a knock-on effect for United?
Well, I mean, Nat mentioned it already. If Barca go for Viv, that obviously impacts Oshoala's potential move anywhere, and more clubs as well. I suppose, it's hard. It's hard to say. I think both clubs are going to have quite a big turnover this season, this summer. So I think there probably will be quite a lot of overlapping and interlinking of moves. Of one player goes somewhere and others freed up, they come in to the other club, etc. I think we're going to and I don't even just think that about just United and Arsenal. I think we're going to see that a lot more widely. I mean, you look at the release lists of so many WSL clubs are just absolutely insane. So I think there's going to be a lot of that. Like, it's hard to pinpoint like particular players or particular positions, because I think there's going to be just so many. And for Arsenal and United, the interesting thing is the manager situation. Like, I know very, very little. And I've been digging to get info on who these managers are coming into United and Arsenal. And I'm getting old names that I don't actually think are likely. So
go on, spill a name, even if it's old.
I mean, loads of them have already been said, Stephen Lurch to Arsenal, but he's joined a men's youth team. Now, whether that happens before or after there being Arsenal interest to say that actually no, he's going to turn that down to go to Arsenal or whatever is another thing. But I've heard a lot of different managers like that linked to different clubs. I do not know who Man United are getting, and like, to be honest, with America soaking up so many like managers in particular, with Jill Scott, what am I talking about? With Jill Ellis, another Jill, that's why, getting the sort of leadership role over in the States with one of the clubs, and, Eni Aluko going over there, Casey being linked with the States. Like, it's hard to see how many managers with wow factor are sort of left for clubs like Arsenal and United to soak up. And that's my fear, is that like you'll get a manager that doesn't have wow factor, that can't attract players in the same way that obviously Montemuro came in with not much of a reputation behind him internationally, although he had done a great role in Australia. But he quickly sort of built up a profile, winning a trophy 3 months in. He was able to attract players. Arsenal already had good players there. Casey was like, I mean, I think every single player you spoke to that was recruited in the time of Casey at Man United, so Man United's entire history or recent history, was like a key factor in players coming. So it's really important, and it's tough to know who they're going to get. I don't know if you guys have got any thoughts. Who would you like? I'd like to know who you United in, other than Casey.
Oh yeah, Casey back. For me, John, and John can go next. He probably might. I like Maria Pry from Levante. I think, like I said, I've watched a lot of Spanish football now. I've watched a lot of Levante. If you look at Honor has our hearts. She's come from Levante, developed under her. Even little Eva Navarro, same thing. So for me, there's a lot of young players there. She's neck and neck basically with Real Madrid, and Real Madrid have put a lot of money in. Someone like that. I think the one who would have a bit of star factor would be Rita Graiola. Sorry if I butchered her name, from Juventus. Someone like that. I like the guy who was Gerard Piqué, but it looks like he's going to Paris now. Ex-Lyon coach. But I've seen a lot of people, Levante manager, European coach. I know someone said today Jill Ellis, but I can't see that happening. But something like, a European. I think with a lot of United fans, unless you're the creme de la creme, so unless it's like Emma Hayes or Casey or, well, even that's it, we don't want a British manager. Not in a horrible way, but we know what they can bring. We want something different. We like a different style. We want... and I think someone like us from a Spanish league that no one's probably ever heard of would come in and do that and bring, a different style of play that the WSL's not seen probably a lot of, and essentially go out there. Because I think we've got good players. I know I said it on the show on Monday, I see us as basically third. I know we didn't and all that happened, but I think I see our players and I see the way that we performed, and I just think it's so close. So for me, I think we're there, basically. We just need to believe it a bit more and do it and finish the job.
Yeah.
John, who would you say? Who's your manager?
I think it's so tough because with Casey, I think the only thing that she was lacking was that experience. But she would have got that with time. You can't just suddenly get experience, can you? So I think I want to have very similar qualities to what Casey had, but with a bit more experience. Now, I'm not wise enough in the women's game to know who those are. You mentioned Jill Ellis's name, and she's got that experience. But on the flip side, I'm hearing negative things about her man management style. The Levante manager, I think, will actually get on really well with United already. I think there's probably some sort of relationship there because of previous signings or things that have gone on previously. So I could understand that rumour, but I don't know enough about her. But I would like to see maybe a different playing style because we're not scoring enough goals. So I would like to see something different, and a European manager would bring that. But I just don't think we hear enough solid rumours, do we? They are just names that float around, and we do our bit of research and then we go from there. But it is very hard to kind of guess because we just don't know too much. That is something that's kind of staying tight-lipped, isn't it? Yeah. Go on, Susie, sorry.
No, I was just going to say that's one of the things that I think needs to change a little bit is for agents and clubs to recognise the benefit of things being leaked as well, because you've not got. It happens, obviously it happens. We've seen stories I've got, you've seen stories other people have got. We do speak to people, there are leaks, but it doesn't happen as much as it does on the men's game. And I think I generally find that people are more cagey, but I think the reason for that is that they don't necessarily recognise that if a story is leaked, it actually hypes it up a little bit more. And that I think that's something that's changing. It's something that's shifting. It's something that's becoming slightly more accepted. And that'll be good. I mean, it means you'll get more gossip. We'll get more gossip, but with concrete stuff behind it. And I think that's what's needed. Because sometimes the silences can be really frustrating when you don't hear anything from clubs about certain managers and stuff. I think the Juventus manager is a decent shout. I think, if I'm talking hypothetically here, I don't know about the movements going on and stuff to United managerially. From a personal point of view, I really enjoyed the Fiorentina manager. I think he's a fantastic manager, great guy. I'd love to see him with like the resources of a big club somewhere, not necessarily England, but in Europe. I really like I mean, obviously she's lacking WSL experience, like only the 1 year, but I would have liked to have seen Carla Ward be given a shot at either United or Arsenal, but that's purely sort of like a slightly emotional response to the conversation from me, in that I think she's just like a superb manager, and it'd be good to see her in a situation where she's not being starved of resources, which hopefully she'll get at Villa. And then maybe her next club is one of the, Arsenal, Chelsea, City, Everton, Man Uniteds of the world. I feel like she's like not that far off from deserving a chance at that level. But yeah, like you, I think, yeah, some of the European managers are probably the most likely.
I see here Vic saying we want the hype, and I just remember I think it was a good couple of months before they actually signed and they actually released it, but there was just a one release, and it was Tobin Heath and Kristen Press, a closer signing from Man United, and that month, or it might have been 3 weeks, it just banged forever, and then they released it, then that banged even more, and I remember people were waiting every 2 day, 2 o'clock, and that's what I think we do every day. 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. crew. We all wait for the Twitter account to post, but I've seen a lot of people saying they're just posting one player at a time now, and I think they know that there's hype there for our team, and we're ready whenever. Just some names I want to go back on, and that I saw up in the comments, and they're Arsenal players, but I'm guessing they're Arsenal players that Man United fans like, and Man United fans got their eye on, and I just want to know Susie's point, whether she thinks they'll go or whether she thinks there's potential they could move and whether they'd come to Man United. Leah Williamson, she's not signed a new contract, don't know if that's going to happen. And Beth Mead, someone who I wanted before she signed a new contract last, and I would take her again. I think she's in that bracket where she could do great things for us. What do you know about those two? Are Arsenal going to lose them? Because that would benefit us as well, even if it wasn't going to us. But is that what's going on with players like that from an Arsenal point, and is there any chance for a red point?
I don't think Arsenal will lose Leah Williamson. No matter what is going on at the club. I think that given that she's an Arsenal fan through and through, she's the kind of person that is going to stay and fight for improvements at the club and for the club to be better and be better on the pitch and off it than leave it. So from the Leah point of view, I think like a certain amount of brinkmanship going on over a contract, maybe to get more money. It's a hard negotiating position when you're a fan, like such a diehard fan of a club, to get more money when the club knows you don't want to leave necessarily. So I think there's a little bit of that going on where it's, like her team trying to get more than the club are willing to give because they know she's not going to go. And like, unless that was pushed to an extreme, unless the club were literally just like, no, all out to every single demand, then I can't see her ever leaving. Beth's an interesting one in that, like, she's I don't know I don't know what her story is this summer. And, I think it might depend on other movements at Arsenal as well, wherever she goes. But, I think the fact that she has fallen out of favour a little bit with England might play a role in her decision to move on. So I think that will be a part of it. If she's going to be playing regularly, partly it was injury this season, but she did like sort of dip a little bit in form. I think she would ultimately like to play more centrally as well, because that is where she started. You want to see her sort of do an Henri and move from the wing inwards a little bit. I think that's where she would like to see her sort of position ultimately. And yeah, I think she'd probably want to be in an environment that is going to be more conducive to success, perhaps, than Arsenal seem to be at the moment, without wanting to be too blunt about it. So yeah, like I think she's a definite possibility. I don't know if there has been concrete contact between them, but it would not surprise me if she moved this summer. But like I say, I think it slightly depends on movement elsewhere at Arsenal. Like, can they afford to let players go if they're shifting out so many others? If they lose Viv, do they want to weaken that forward line further? Like, who else will come in to fill that role? Yeah, it's a tough one.
Me and Natalie smiling there because I think that's kind of we do need another winger, in my opinion. It can't just be Galton and Hansen and Tooney every now and again. We haven't seen as much of Fuso. Whether or not she can play it there, she tends to play centrally. So I think we need another winger next season, presuming Tobin's going to obviously go. So yeah, and obviously being a United fan, that obviously helps.
There's John. There's my mate, Mido, numbered 9. Let's get it. That's the shirt that we're getting next season. Well, snide shirt, but let's get it. I think she could play centrally for us. If we don't get Oshala, why not go for it? She's a United fan. She knows what the fans bring. I think it would be good. Another Beth. Though Beth England's potentially one as well. That there's the LJ Chelsea links, and it's sort of for me. I think unless we get big money, we should get in a swap, and she's another one that's not really getting an England shout. And she was doing so well. She was like, basically, I think she was on the road to knock Ellen White off, and she would have been the main striker. Now she's not playing. That's another person who needs a move, in my opinion. Whether she will, she's got a long contract. But like I said, then if LJ goes in, LJ plays in the middle. There's that question there. What's your thoughts, Susie?
Yeah, that's a really decent shout. Actually, I've not thought about that. Like that, you could have Beth as part of a swap for LJ. Like if I was United, I would be pushing for that big time. I've heard Beth linked with other clubs in the league.
Go on then. Names. You can't say. Don't worry.
Yeah. So, but put it this way: I've heard her linked with clubs that are not going to do as well as United.
Okay.
So yeah, like if I was the Man United hierarchy, I'd be like going all guns blazing to make that happen if the LJ deal isn't done and dusted. Last I heard, it wasn't completely done and dusted, but that I've been slightly out of the loop on that one, in that I chased it a while back, and at the moment I'm writing a book, which is
exclusive there by Vicky. Exclusive there.
Yeah, so at the moment I'm writing a book, so like that's killing me a little bit and like taking me out of transfer chasing a little bit. So I've not totally chased the latest on LJ for a while. I think it's happening, but I'm not sure if it's like literally the paper's dry or not. Yeah. But yeah, like yeah, I mean, I don't see why United wouldn't make every effort to do that, but I suppose it depends on whether their ambitions lie in England or elsewhere with the likes of Oshuala. That's the key, isn't it? Because if you're going to go for a player like that, in my mind, the logical thing for United to do would be to go for both. But to be honest, I'm a little bit. In fact, your meeting with the club has probably given you a bit more of an indication for this. I actually think that the fact that you had that meeting with the club and the club have put out a statement on the women's team is actually quite significant, because I don't think. Well, it's extremely rare for clubs to do that with women's teams, fan groups. I don't remember that happening to this extent, where there's then been a statement from the club on the state of the club and stuff, in sort of recent memory at least. So for me, that's really significant, in that perhaps that is an indication that they are listening slightly to what's going on and to talk around the club and frustration of fans, and maybe they are serious about correcting some of those mistakes they've made. Maybe Casey leaving has been a sort of like wake-up call to them that actually, no, we can't just coast. And that's what you'd like to hope it has been, that it has, like, you know, snapped them to attention a little bit. And if that is the case, then they should be going for multiple players of that kind of caliber. But obviously, it's the money that talks, isn't it? So it's whether they're willing to, like, whether their words are as good as their financial commitment is the question.
The way I see it is this whole club is in a state of sort of the same. I think it's tomorrow that Joel Glazer's going to be, I think it's tomorrow or the Friday after, I can't remember, that there's going to be a fans forum with Joel Glazer. You know, and again, questions like that will be put to him. You know, it's not going to be easy. You know, the people are going to make it tough for him. I think there's a movement now amongst United fans where it's enough is enough. No penny more. There's people that I know have got shirts from every year, and they're not doing it. There's people that I know who have got shirts from every year with men's and women's teams, you know, and they're saying enough is enough. So I think with our club, and I know with I mean, Arsenal, there's talk of Daniel Ek and all that taking over, but I know with the Glazers now, it's the breaking point. The European Super League was the breaking point. And I think as well, you sort of touched on it a bit, Susie, about Man United fans. I think we do have, I don't want to sort of insult anyone now, but I think we're the best fans in England. And I think it's about, it just feels good in my heart that it's been recognised in a way. Because they do have a good support base. They have someone that follows them home and away, and a lot of core people were devastated. I was devastated when she left, and obviously then reading in the base of that, it then makes you question, well, why have you done the women's team? And like you say, with the state of that's going on with the men's team, and then this as well, it doesn't help them. But yeah, that's the June the 4th. So yeah, it's tomorrow. Is the meeting. So, you know, it's a case of let's see what he says in that. And like I say, you know, with the fan-led review, there's a push to own the club, you know, and I think that's what's needed. I think there's a need from all teams, which will happen with the ESL, for there to be fans at the heart of the decisions, more so now. And I think even more so with women's teams because, you know, we're in a fragile position. And I think in women's teams, it can either go one way or the other now. So it can either go exactly like the men's team, where all this money that's going to come in is going to go straight to the agents and straight to the owners and straight to this, or this money can come in and disseminate down properly and can grow the game and can take it to heights that it should be at. Because that's what it's all about, isn't it, John? You know, us supporting the team the same way and wanting the same standards and excitement and joy, because that's what they bring. So I want to sort of give it back to them. Want the best for all teams in the club. So it's going to be interesting, that meeting, but like you say, it's going to be interesting as well. So for them to back it up, and you know, for me, Charlotte's a good signing, Beth England's a good signing, but both is even better. So let's see what happens. And Beth Mead.
Well, we need that many people. It's the amount. We do need, you know, we do need a good handful, don't we? Over 50 people have watched constantly throughout the whole show, so please stick a thumbs up and retweet everything. We've got a couple of minutes left. I just want to get Susie's predictions for next season. So Rodney asked halfway through about, do you think anybody can catch Chelsea? So you can answer that one shortly. And also, Everton are making moves. Could they potentially break into the top 3 next season? And maybe Man United and Arsenal, or Man United and City miss out? Or what are your thoughts on the top of the league next season?
I think Chelsea are too far ahead. They're going to strengthen if they bring in LJ and potentially others. You know, I asked Emma Hayes after the Champions League final, I think, whether she was going to strengthen full-backs, and she said they would be in the market. And, you know, that's, I think, their weak spot in terms of, like, where they've got the least depth, I suppose. So yeah, like, I've got no doubt that they're going to be right up there again. I think City will hold pace. I think Gareth Taylor, I'm still sort of on the fence about him a little bit, but I think he has done a decent job in his first season. He will strengthen cities, facilities and resources are enough to attract any player in the world. And then I suppose in terms of the next level is where it gets interesting. I worry for, as an Arsenal fan, I worry for Arsenal. And I worry as a women's football fan for United. Because I think unless, and I suppose it's very, very indicative of the fact that, you know, look at the three clubs in that European Super League debacle that have the American owners. Liverpool with their championship chasing team who don't compete for the title. Arsenal, who have sort of got this almost like stagnant relationship with the women's team, in that they seem to be happy for it to coast. Yeah. But everyone else is accelerating, so you can't coast. You've got to make the decision to up the investments seriously. But it's almost like that, you know, because Arsenal for so long were leaders of the game on the women's side with very, very minimal investment. Now that teams are starting to push beyond that, they've sort of got a decision to make as to whether they go all in or don't. And I think, you know, managerial decisions and, you know, what they do with Viv is going to be key to where they finish. In terms of Man United, again, like I just, it's so hard to replace Casey. I just really, really hope that, you know, that Casey is right and has done a lot of the deals before she's departed, or done a lot of the groundwork or legwork there. Whoever comes in has got a like big shoes to fill. But then also has the benefit of Casey having gone the way she did and set the example and the standard, shown that it's not good enough to just coast, or to just, you know, kind of have a banner women's team, that you've got to actually try and compete. So for me, like, I think I saw someone say it in the chat earlier, we can't miss out with the Sky money and BBC coverage and stuff coming in. Like, I think for both clubs, they've got a real big decision to make about whether they want to be having the biggest slice of that pie. Like, do you want to be involved in the conversation at the top of the league, at the turning point for the women's game, where we're sort of shifting from it, you know, it sucking money from clubs to potentially starting towards more breaking even, and then in the direction of profitability. If you fall away now, if you fall away from the top of the league now, or from the top teams in the league now, then it at the moment you could get back pretty easily. But as more money comes in, as the Champions League money has increased, it's going to be harder if you fall away to come back in the future. So that's the thing for me. It's like, you know, you rent a flat, you buy a flat in London and you sell up and you move out of London, and it's going to be very, very difficult to be able to buy your way back in the future. And it's the same thing with this league. Like, now is the time where it's about to switch and money is about to get more serious. And so, like, they've got that decision to make. So for me, at the moment, it seems like Everton are the only club of that tier that have that seriousness to their strategy. And I don't think that we necessarily know yet whether Arsenal and Man United have even made that decision of whether they want to be in that conversation. So yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to say where they'll finish. I hope they're up there. I hope that they're the three buying it out for, or at least challenging City and buying it out for that third Champions League spot. But given the way things are going, both are American-owned clubs who, you know, barely give a damn about their men's teams, let alone the women's teams. There needs to be some kind of serious pressure on the board and the ownership to be able to make that change. Which do I think is more likely to? I mean, given that the club are actually engaging with you guys, like, I can't see Arsenal doing that anytime soon, to be honest. I mean, I know there's talk of getting women's representative involved in stuff from an Arsenal supporters point of view as well, but from my view, I think that Man United are the ones who are more likely to take that sit more seriously. But at the same time, Arsenal have the history and the reputation to be able to attract players sort of regardless of that to a certain extent as well. So it's a little bit up in the air for me.
For me, I see it as the fans are going to drive it. I think it's a case of you will see, us fans won't let it lie. We saw with the way that Casey resigned, the way it was all over, the way any move that Man United make is sort of a bit all over, headline making moves. And I think we saw with the highs of it, with the press and the Heath and the way they sold tickets, and then we've seen when the bad things come, they've seen that fury of it. And I think let's get back to having it at the highs, at the press and Heath, at selling out, at being part of breaking records. I remember we were in the Championship and we broke every single record there, attendance, and I want to get back to that. I think even in we've seen it with the City game, we broke that attendance. I know then obviously the thing did it, but it was only by a couple of hundred more. I think we broke the attendance when we went to Kings Meadow, 4,000. They sold that out. That's the highest attendance when it's not been, at a men's stadium. So we've got these records, and I think that should be their motivation. Because like you say, with women's team, I think there's going to be even more. I think if that Old Trafford game was at Old Trafford, I can see 50,000 plus 60,000, and I think we will be there. I just think I've seen a lot of comments, now's the time, and I think we will. I know you say about Chelsea, but I think up until we started to have our issues with the pitches and the this and the that and the move and all that, I was like, Chelsea who? And that's might be a bit cocky of me, maybe it's a bit arrogant, but we weren't top for nothing. Yes, we fell off badly, very, very badly, and it's something I think Casey takes responsibility for, but I think it's with everything that happened as well. But I think COVID as well exacerbated a lot of it. We had Rich on talking about the situation with COVID, and I think hopefully, everyone's getting vaccinated. I'm hearing that more, be normal next season. And I think as well, when it's normal and they've got the fans there, like you said, they love it. I think that's a lot of the performances that we saw, I don't think we would have seen with fans. I know that's cliche, and I know that's kind of thing, and I know, everyone miss fans, but I just think some of them, yes, we will still have seen. But I think, I look at Brighton, the way they lost that game, I look at Reading, and I think maybe this is just me personally. I just think you wouldn't have put in efforts like that and then come and looked at the fans after. I don't know, especially the Brighton one, but I have seen them play really poorly at Brighton before. But they would have at least got a point, I like to think. A lot of injuries killed us as well, yeah. And I think we're not that far. I think we are not that far. I think there's a lot of hype over Chelsea. I think they are really good, and I think they'll carry on putting money in. But then we saw with Barcelona, you can put all the money in and get your harders and your cares and your this, but then when you come against a team that's been together a long time, that's built up, that's got a philosophy, and I think that's what Casey was building. And I just hope that they bring in someone, like John says, along the same mentality, wants to do it the same way. Might not kick up as much of a fuss. That's not really what we want. We want you to raise the standards, and if it's now on the fans to kick up the fuss instead of the manager, then we'll still do it. But yeah, I think I'm not going to say we're good. I'm going to wait and see. But you might hear my shout again. We're going to win the league. It's a big shout at this channel. But I think, why can't we win the league? Why can't the men's and women's win the league? Why can't we have what you said, the men's bus and the women's bus having trophies on it? For me, I think it's possible. It's just like you say, the strength, the determination, and it's here now. I think we go for it.
We have been going on for half an hour, so we're going to wrap up. Thank you to everybody in the comments. We've had constantly over 47 people watching. We've had over 50 at one point as well, which is great. Thank you very much for coming on, Susie. I hope we haven't grilled you too much. I think all the comments have been very polite, everybody in the comments. So hope you enjoy it, Susie, and try and come back before the start of the next season if you're able to. That'll be great to have you back on. Is there anything that you want to shout out? Any of your Twitter handles or any kind of stuff that you do?
My Twitter handle's @SusieRack. And yeah, you can follow my stuff at The Guardian, obviously, obvious place. But yeah, like I've really enjoyed coming on. It's been fun. Like I say, it's always nice to get an insight of what fans are thinking, and you know, ones that are close to the club, close to the players, as close to the issues going on. I think, you know, as an Arsenal fan personally, there's a lot of similarities between the stuff going on at the top of our clubs at the moment that I think, you know, it'd be good to see more collaboration between fans groups. I know that it's happening at the FSA a little bit, but you know, I'd like to see a more of a an activist base to women's football fans generally, that is, you know, joining some of the campaigns of the broader sections of the clubs, and that's what you're doing. So yeah, been really, really good fun, and yeah, happy to come on again at some point. So appreciate you asking me on.
We'll have to get you on as a fan next time. So instead of asking you about journalism questions, we'll get you on as a fan. When Man United against Arsenal, we'll get you on and see what your thoughts are as an Arsenal fan. That'll be interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you as always. Thank you to everybody in the comments. We are going to wrap it up now, and we shall see you on, what day is it today, Nat? I never know. Is it Monday?
Friday. We'll see you tomorrow on the women's team, and we'll see you next Friday with a Swedish journalist. So get in your comments about anyone from around that area, Scandinavia. Woo!
So, guys, thank you. Bye.
See you later.